Hi, everybody. Welcome to Diamond Secrets Revealed, a focus on diamond clarity secrets. My name is Jennifer Wyszynski. I am a GIA gemologist, jewelry designer, and appraiser, and I love to talk and teach all about the different gemstones, especially diamonds. And today we're going to discover what's inside your diamond and talk about clarity. So maybe right now you need clarity in your life to be the best you can be, and maybe your thoughts are cloudy and you don't know why. Well, today I'm going to be focusing on diamond clarity, what makes up its clarity to be the best diamond it can be, and how you determine it. Also, I want to cut through the hazy clouds and help you get clear on what clarity is right for you. So you may be asking, if diamonds are so pure, why and what are those spots inside of them? So diamonds, like us, were created in nature and are one of a kind. And like us, they're not perfect. So diamonds are formed in the mantle of the earth, which is 75 to 100 miles below the earth's surface. So they're created in an environment with lava and magma, which gives it the high heat and pressure that's needed to grow and crystallize. So while diamonds and any other gemstone that grow, they need the proper elements, the heat and pressure that must remain constant to be perfect. So if a new trace element is introduced into this ideal environment, they can attach to the crystal structures and change their color. So while diamond's growing, if nitrogen is present, then you get that tint of yellow. Also, there may be things that, if it doesn't remain constant, it may cause crystal distortion. So an interruption in the crystal pattern, which will make it not perfect, it's usually a perfect octahedron. So then the crystal distortion the final crystal won't look right. It may start to form their own crystal inside, or elements may get trapped while the crystal is forming, or maybe the crystal cracks during growth and tries to repair itself. So like our growth, there's a journey to all things that grow, and each journey is unique, creating clarity characteristics that are like birthmarks. And these birthmarks make up a diamond's clarity and help us identify and classify them, as well as determine their use in human society. So if it has a lot of inclusions and it's opaque and a lot of crystal distortion, then usually they grind it into diamond dust and use it for industrial or commercial purposes, and use it to polish other diamonds. Or sometimes they use it to coat scalpels or other blades to be able to cut things easier. Or it can be used in machinery as heat sinks, since it dispels heat very quickly. Or if the diamonds are higher in clarity, so in our normal clarity range, they're used for consumer and resale purposes, so that we can buy them, enjoy them, and adorn ourselves with them, setting them into jewelry. But most importantly, clarity is a key factor in determining its value. So what is clarity? Clarity refers to both internal and external characteristics of a diamond. So internal are the inclusions or clarity characteristics that are only inside the diamond, like a crystal or a cloud. But some can reach and break the surface, like a feather. So these are all created during the growth in nature. External characteristics, which are called blemishes, are anything strictly located on the surface, like scratches or polish lines. And these are created after human intervention. So diamond clarity refers to the absence of these inclusions and blemishes. Diamonds without these birthmarks are rare, and of course, rarity affects value. So since diamonds are so valuable, there needed to be a universal system in which everyone can understand. So like the color scale that I taught you last time, GIA's clarity grading system developed because jewelers were using terms that were easily misinterpreted, such as loupe clean, which means that you can't see anything with your naked eye when you look at it, or PK, which means it's very highly included, has a lot of inclusions. So today, since diamonds are bought and traded all over the globe, there needed to be a universal standard understood by all, no matter what language you spoke. So therefore, the highly respected GIA International Diamond Grading System was created. So using the GIA International Diamond Grading System, diamonds are assigned a clarity grade that ranges from flawless, you can see in this photo, all the different clarity grades. So it goes from flawless to diamonds with obvious inclusions or included, I3. In light color, each grade has a range and must be graded by more than one educated gemologist before the grade is final. So the GIA grading system, each category is as follows. So you have flawless, which is no internal or external characteristics. Internally flawless, which means that there's no internal characteristics under 10 times magnification. It can have a blemish or two, like scratches or polish lines, something like that, that's seen under 10x magnification. VVS1 or VVS2 is very, very slightly included. VS1 to VS2 is very slightly included. SI1 to SI2, which is slightly included. Then you have the category of imperfect, which ranges from I1 to I3, which is included. After that, there are stones that are considered D Class A or PK, and this is usually for commercial or industrial use. And there's so many inclusions that the stone is almost opaque or is opaque, which means light cannot go through it. So how do you know what grade to give a stone? So there are 5 factors that you need to consider simultaneously, all at one time. And some other factors to consider are how large your stone is. So if you have a really small stone or if you have a really big stone, and what shape your stone is. Okay, so these are some factors to consider. But the 5 that we're going to be going over has no particular order. You have to consider them simultaneously. So what are these 5 factors? You have size. So how big or long is the inclusion compared to the overall size of your stone? So how much of that stone does that inclusion take up? When you look at your stone face up, compared to the total diameter or the length and width, how much of that diameter or length and width is that inclusion taking up? So if you have, say, a 2 millimeter crystal in a 10-point diamond, which is 3 millimeters in diameter, that would look pretty huge, right? Whereas if a 2 millimeter crystal in a 3-carat stone, which is generally around 9.1 millimeters, it will look a lot smaller or less noticeable. The second is nature. So this is the type of inclusion. A crystal that is solid is easier seen than a group of pinpoints. That's called a cloud. When you have a lot of little pinpoints and they're grouped together, you call that a cloud. But it's not one big mass like a crystal is. So a crystal, since it's solid, is more easily seen than a bunch of little pinpoints that are grouped together and spaced apart. So it doesn't stand out as much. The third is number, how many inclusions there are. So you really don't sit and count them, but you get the overall look. So there can be 100 little pinpoints making up that small cloud, which would be a minor inclusion compared to one big crystal, which could be more noticeable. Or there can be many inclusions throughout the stone, making it less transparent, and they would be more obvious. So it's an overall look, not an actual number. So fourth is position. So this is where the inclusion is located. This is more important than people think, because you can have one small inclusion close to the culate, which is the point of your stone, and because of optics, it will reflect throughout the entire stone. I have a picture of what that looks like. So if you have this inclusion at the bottom of your stone, because of the optics, it will make eight of the same inclusion reflecting all around your stone. So even though you have one, it looks like you have many. But you need to remember that no two inclusions will look alike. So if you see the same inclusion, it's a reflection. And always look at your stone in profile or the side view to check what's really going on. You want to rock and tilt it, you want to move it, because if the reflection disappears, then it's not really there. Okay, so diamonds are not magic. So you move it and it disappears and then reappears. That means it's a reflection. Or there can be small inclusions by the girdle, which is that line on the profile, located on the profile, and located more towards the bottom or the pavilion. That is minor. So maybe like a VS2 crystal. But then face up, so if you look at it from the top, you hardly see it. So the final grade always goes to the face up. So if it was VS2 on the bottom, when you turn it back up and you hardly see it, it'll be more of a VS1. Lastly is color or relief. So what color is the inclusion, and how obvious does it stand out against that background? So if you have a colorless diamond with a black inclusion, you can see that far easier than a colorless inclusion, right? So inclusions can be white, black, yellow, green, red, colorless, or maybe they have some iron oxide that got trapped inside, and that usually looks orange. Or there may be a break in the stone that will give off rainbow colors under light at certain angles. And this is from strain in the crystal structure. I have a really cool picture of a garnet crystal that's trapped inside. So you can see that red really stands out against that colorless background. And then you have a white inclusion. That one also stands out. But the red you can obviously see far easier. Then there are sometimes inclusions called phantom inclusions or phantom crystals, and there are other ones that are called knots. And they look like ice and water. And you can only see the outline very slightly. But it is there and it must be counted. So, but it's a little bit difficult to see because it's almost invisible. So you want to keep all of these factors always in mind when you're grading your stone. So you want to consider the size, nature, number, position, and color or relief. And then next, you determine if those 5 factors are minute, meaning very hard to find. So you're like searching for a very long time, maybe under high magnification, and then you bring it back down to 10 power and you still see it, but it's really, really tiny. So it's very minute. Or minor, so it took a little more time to see it, and then if you do see it, it's very small. Then you have noticeable, and you see it right away, but it doesn't compromise the diamond's beauty. Then you have I1, which is obvious, and then I2 is obvious and compromises either the beauty or the durability. Then you have I3, which is the lowest clarity grade, and this compromises both the beauty and the durability. So those are the differences between them. So examine your stone and you think to yourself, overall, are these inclusions minute, minor, noticeable, or obvious? So these are the buzzwords to determine your grade category, your clarity grade. So if it's minute, it will be in the VVS range. If it's minor, it will be in the VS range. Noticeable would be in the SI range, and obvious will be in the imperfect range or the I range. So for brilliant cuts like round, princess, radiant, heart, pear, and marquee, these all have triangular or kite-shaped facets that can hide many of these inclusions. So here's a pear-shaped diamond with a small little inclusion in the center, and it may be a lot more difficult to see because of those brilliant facets compared to, say, this emerald cut, where it has that long feather, and you can easily see it because emeralds and Asher cuts are step cuts, so the inclusions are easier to see, and you need to take that into consideration. So what makes up the final grade? So there's a secret to the final clarity grade, and that is that when you're looking at the stone face up with 10 power of magnification or your loupe, you need to look at it in 4 different positions. So you look at it in one position, determine if it's minute, minor, noticeable, or obvious, taking all those 5 factors into consideration. Then you rotate it 90 degrees, again, face up under 10 magnification. You give it a clarity grade, and you do this 4 times. So if, for example, it's noticeable in 3 positions, but obvious in 1, it'll be an SI2, so majority rules. So you have it in SI2 in 3 positions, but in 1 position it was an I1, so it will get the better grade. Because you have to remember, it is formed in nature, and we don't want to be mean to our diamonds. So what about if it's I visible? Isn't it automatically an I1? So a lot of people think that, and let me talk about this myth that if you can see it with your naked eye, then it's automatically an I1. So this is not true, especially for emerald cuts, because you can have a minor inclusion that catches the light in a certain position, in one of those 4 positions, and you can then see it without a loupe. But the grade can be a VS2. It can be a very minor little inclusion. It just happens to catch the light and will sparkle a little bit, so you can see it with your unaided eye. But in actuality, the grade would be a VS2. Or reversely, you can have a long inclusion that's hidden by the facets, and that is an I1 under magnification. But since it's going along, say, facet junctions, you can't see it with your naked eye, so it's hidden by the optics of and the faceting of that stone. So how do you choose the right clarity for you? So if you're a collector or you have a large budget, then you can go for the most rare and the most expensive per carat, which is flawless or internally flawless. But with these stones, you really need to be very careful, because diamonds can chip or break. And once you chip that flawless stone, like Elizabeth Taylor did with the famous Burton Taylor diamond, it will lower the clarity and the value. And how much you chip that stone depends on how low that clarity grade will be and how much the value you'll lose. So, it's a difference of thousands of dollars per carat. Well, depending on how big the stone is that you bought. But flawless and internally flawless are the tip top of the value range and of the clarity range. So next we have VVS grades, which are also rare and expensive. But I've seen a lot of people of certain religions and cultures where a high clarity is very important, and they tend to go with this VVS clarity. Also, it can't have any black inclusions. But if clarity is very important to you, then you should go with a VVS clarity grade. For everybody else, budget is the prime factor. So I would recommend determining the size and shape you want first. So the size of the diamond and the shape that is desirable for you first. Then color, because color you see right away. Then cut or proportion, because you want that sparkle and that beauty and that life to that diamond. And lastly, I would consider the clarity. So that would be the last thing on my list. So the most popular clarity that we see today is SI1 or SI2, so in that noticeable category. And as I said earlier, each clarity is a range. So you can have a borderline stone, what's considered a borderline stone. So there are ones that are considered a high SI1, or any other grade, but just for an example, a high SI1, but it can look like a VS2. But in the lab, they chose to give it that SI1. So you're paying for that lower clarity grade, but you're really getting a better clarity looking stone. So always ask for a few to choose from in your price range, and choose the best in overall beauty. Because you want to remember, no one walks around with a loupe or a microscope examining your stone, right? So it's everything you see with your naked eye. Also, if you get a stone that has the main inclusion toward the edge of the stone, you can always cover it with a prong. So that's a little trick to make it look like a better clarity than it actually is. But never, ever, ever, ever do you want to just buy a stone from the certificate alone without seeing it. So if it has a GIA certificate and has the plot of the inclusions on it, you really need to see it in person. Because remember what I said, you can have one inclusion by the culate or by the point of that diamond, and it would be like a house of mirrors, and it will reflect everywhere. So it would look worse than what the plot showed, right? So you can say, oh, this only has one little inclusion, but it's actually reflecting everywhere and can look a lot worse. So your final choice should be the stone that looks the most beautiful to your eyes, because it is a unique, beautiful gemstone that is created by Mother Earth. And just like you, it is valuable, but you want it to be something that you treasure, and that when you look at it, it really makes you happy and makes you shine. So, as always, if you need help or have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and I would love to assist you. And please give this video a like and share it with anyone that needs to learn about clarity, because hopefully we're going to be buying diamonds and engagement rings and anniversary gifts and everything else soon. We hope for that soon, and I hope you all staying safe and healthy. And next time on Sunday, we're going to be talking about that last C, which is cut. And we're going to find out the secrets to what makes your diamond really sparkle. So have a great day. It's beautiful sun shining in New York. Enjoy it, and I'll see you soon.